Did you know from pretty much from the get-go when you were a high school student that you probably wanted to do a news thing or do a journalism?
I did. I was one of the few people who knew when I came to, and that's the reason I chose OU. At the time, I know it was still considered in the top three schools of journalism, I think with Columbia Northwestern. And I came from the Cleveland area, and my mom even said to me, she goes, "You could have gone out of state and been closer to home." But I came to OU wanting to go into journalism and never regretted it for 1 second.
What part of Greater Cleveland are you from?
North Olmsted,
Yes.
southwest suburbs of Cleveland.
Now you came to Ohio University, I'm guessing in 69 or 70 or
70.
70.
1970.
And from what I've heard, I was an undergrad at Ohio State, so I was not here for my undergrad years. This institution was going through a significant number of changes at that time, was it not, in terms of challenges to the budget, enrollment, or maybe that didn't filter down to students very much?
It did. They had already added the South Green. They had expanded. They were doing things, but then they were afraid if enrollment was going to keep up. It was during that time that they went to the draft lottery and they did some things, and so students that were going to school mainly to get the draft exemption, that changed. And so there were changes. There were changes and there were concerns that the school had while I was here. It didn't filter down too much, and the journalism school was on such a growth spurt.
One of the things I found most interesting among many things you said today was what your perception of the durability of, especially of community newspapering as such. People are always pronouncing the death of newspapering as we know it. Would you expand upon that a little bit again?
Right. Well, I do think that community journalism is safe. I mean, the heart of the internet is local journalism, and that's what we're doing. But people still, they want in the communities, they want pictures. They want pictures of their grandson playing, or at the prom, or a queen of this, or 4-H, and they want print pictures of that.
Yeah.
They don't want to download it off of the web, and they want the story. Scrapbooking is a huge thing, becoming bigger everywhere, but especially in rural areas. Scrapbooking is an industry in itself almost. And the people will get that information from the newspapers. Plus, like I said, Bob Gates, it was at the Alternative Association of Alternative Newspapers that he was talking. And he said, before everybody gets all crazy, he just pulled a piece of paper out and he said, this would have turned the industry on its back many years ago if this had come out after the internet. And people would appreciate it. It's just change. I mean, radio was, television was going to kill the radio, and et cetera. And so I just think that community journalism is a special journalism, and I think it'll be around. There are too many things that you can get from the mainstream media, the magazines and stuff. Magazines have been forced to do more niche, but even that, you can still get a lot of that information online. Where community journalism, the local, we're online with our local portion. Mm-hmm. We do not put the Amish section online out of a respect to the Amish,
right.
And they don't want it. We respect that. I think in time there'll be a change, and we'll be able to do it because I think there's a value to the Amish community for people to do research into the community and that. But it's a growing process. I mean, they have cell phones. That's an advancement for them, and I think it'll come in time. But community journalism and newspapering, I believe in my heart, it's not going anywhere. I talk to too many people who newspapers, and just having that paper in their hand or to read when they want to is still too important.
I'm wondering, I know that historically, because for example, Holmes County always has the lowest unemployment rate and some of the lowest human service rates because people tend to take care of their own, the nature of the plain people's community life. But nevertheless, the national economy is a reality for everybody. How, from your perspective, at the budget, is the national economy impacting on, maybe that has not been a demonstrable impact at this point in your ads or your...
It hasn't at this point yet. A little bit. The Amish communities are changing. The farm communities are breaking down some. Pennsylvania, there's a lot of Amish leaving Pennsylvania going to Missouri and those areas because they're land rich, the Amish, and their farms are becoming harder. You know, they're getting squeezed in some of these rural areas by industries that are growing and pushing, or they can get the land cheaper in some of those rural areas. So they're getting squeezed, and what they're doing is they're selling their, you know, smaller plots there and going out and they can buy 3-4 times the amount of land in Missouri or Wisconsin. Those are two areas that are growing.
Yeah, I'm wondering, because I know that
the old order, Nebraska Amish from
yeah,
Geauga County, that are going out that way.
I wondered about that because in one sense, you know better than I, because of your work, there's a paradox in American agriculture as I understand it right now, because on the one hand, prices are high because of things like ethanol and export production and so forth. At the same time, land is also at a premium, and yet equipment and fuel costs for those that use motorized equipment are higher. And so I was wondering about that. I'm not sure to what extent people in Amish areas that are Amish themselves sell for the market, or they sell for self-sufficiency.
Most of them it's self-sufficiency. They go to the farmer markets. Farmer markets are still big in that area. The ethanol and those things are a double-edged sword for a lot of farm, because that is an revenue potential for them. There is that income, but at the same time, their costs for feed and everything else are going up because of the supply and demand. You know, so that's been something that they thought was going to be a big boom to the rural areas. That's not. You know, our economy, we're doing real well. The Budget's one of the few papers that circulation's still growing. You know,
well, that's a wonderful thing. And one of the things I've noticed, I sometimes it takes 62 from Columbus to get to Youngstown because I got sick of the other highway. So I go up through Millersburg and everything, and also come down that way. It seems to me that you have a continuing kind of economic support base over that way because of people visiting and the tourism and so forth. Is that a reality, or is that just something people promoters say is an important factor?
No, it's very important. We do 20,000 papers. 10,000 are mailed outside of Ohio. 5,000 are in our core area, Holmes County, Sugar Creek, etc. The other 5,000 in Ohio, some go into some Amish communities down in the area, but a lot of them, we have a lot of readers in Cleveland, like Cuyahoga County, Franklin County, Hamilton, Washington, that they get the paper because they love coming to Sugar Creek or coming to the Amish country. You just got to give them reason, and so they get the paper because they want to know what the benefits are that are going on for different. You know, where can they get like a half pound of chicken for $4? You know, dinner. They want to know the auctions that are going on. They're antique dealers, or they just, like I said, you give them reason to come down, and they read, oh look, here's this auction, and then we can go to Beachy's, that restaurant we like, and we'll eat there, and they make a day of it. And so those are a large part of our reader base.
How does it work? How was the lifestyle transition for you and your family? You've been in the urban area working for an alternative newspaper. Now you're in a beautiful area, but certainly a much quieter area.
It was, both my kids were in college when this opportunity came up, so my wife likes to say we moved out on the kids instead of them moving, but I did say we left forwarding addresses for both of them. So, but it wasn't, I'm a news person, I'm a journalist. So even though I did an entertainment paper there and I do an Amish paper here, I wasn't like, you know, Jim Belushi or something, or John Belushi. I mean, like a rock and roll crazy, you know. So the lifestyle, I'm a family guy, and I do have a strong sense of spirituality in that. So this area was very comfortable for me to come. It's, my gosh, I mean, there's people who talk all the time about retiring to areas like this, and we just got a little bit of a head start, I think, on, you know, on retirement by coming down. It's just a great area. It's different. It's a small town. We say our kids there were more students in their high school than there are residents in Sugar Creek, where I live. So that's a little bit of a culture thing, you know. But we find news spreads through a town like that as fast as it does in a high school, you know. So.
How do you, in addition to the scribes, of course, who are a special kind of form of news worker, how does the employment picture, what do you look for when you're talking about a young man or young woman and you have an opening on your staff, for regular staff covering local stuff? What are the qualities you look for in somebody?
I look for local. One of the things is that I try to get people who are vested in the community, who have they want to come back, they want to live in the community, they want to raise their children there. Maybe they want to make it an important part of their life. That they respect the readers that we have. They respect both the English and the Amish. It's two different worlds. It's two different. When you're out, you know, there's customs and things that you have to be aware of. It's hard for us because we're in an area, a rural area, that when our students do go on to journalism school, they'll go to Athens, they'll go to Ohio University, and then they're not looking at coming back to Sugar Creek. And but that's why we're trying to create a newspaper. We never entered into like Ohio Newspaper Association awards or any of those. We're entering into those now just to get the attention that we're doing good work. We're not just this, you know, country newspaper that's 6 pages. When I was there, they averaged 6 to 8 pages for the local section. Now we're about 18 to 20 pages.
Oh.
We've added good, solid news. I mean, the news stories that we're doing, we're not just regurgitating press release. We're trying to make it our own story and do those things. And I'm trying to attract journalists from any of the Ohio schools to come back and
Right.
work for us.
Suppose you have a Kent branch.
The Kent Tusk branch,
Yeah,
right.
should mention a competitor. So to speak, not really.
Not anymore. It's blurring more and more all
well,
the time.
that's true. Yes, sir. That's right.
In Ohio.
What is your total news staff, your FTE for your news staff, counting editors, people that deal with the call-in?
I've got 16 full-time. Scribes throughout the country. We have 843 scribes. There's 843 communities. We about 500 write on a weekly basis that we have it. Many of them, they're in such small communities, and they have church every other Sunday, so they might do a story every other Sunday or every other week for us. And then so we average, but we get to those points like after Christmas where, you know, here I am in January pulling my hair out because there's no advertising in January, and all 800 scribes want to write about what happened during the holidays.
Yeah.
And I have an agreement with the Amish communities. They write, we print their letters. I mean, I'll do 10 pages without ads, you know. I mean,
I've seen.
Sometimes our ad percentage in the national is like 17%, and it makes me like tear up, you know. But it's what it is. It's what we need to do for the thing. So.
How do the scribes communicate? By U.S. mail?
Most of them mail their letters in. We send them every year. We send them a pad of 52 sheets. We send them self-addressed stamped envelopes. They get a free scholarship to the paper. That's how they get paid. And they mail them in. Some go to their work or the general store and fax it into us.
Oh yeah.
You know, a few Mennonite. I bet maybe 2 dozen of the 843 send an email, like some of the Mennonite.